Hi, Stewart. This is just in response to your video, Different English Accents. I find accents and dialects to be absolutely fantastic. I'm a linguist by training, although I specialized in Scandinavian languages. I'm also fluent in a number of other European tongues. One of the things that is very important to bear in mind is the fact that when we are talking about colonial English, so that is to say, of course, the New World, but also various African nations, of course, India and Oceania, so New Zealand, Australia. We're talking about a very small English native population migrating to those parts of the world, and then the natives taking on this language. Now, what they do when they take on a new language is they look for patterns, and they try to merge those English language patterns with what is already extant in their own language. That is why there is a slight deformation in, for instance, the way that Kiwis say the word, the letter I. So they'll say fish and chips. Australians do the exact same thing, and that is mostly due to the native Aboriginal population transforming the language. And of course, with South Africa and Southern African English English population, rather, we're talking about the influence of, firstly, native African languages, but also Afrikaans, which has a very severe impact. And of course, there is a distinct similarity between people who come from the Netherlands. Yeah, they speak with a little bit of an accent like this, and that is also very visible in South African English because of the Germanic Dutch influence. Now, if you look at America, the New World, with the exception, of course, of Quebec in Canada, it's an amalgam of various accents, various polities come into contact in the melting pot that is America. So that is why there are so many different dialects and accents coming out of the US, and it's a wonderful thing. But yes, absolutely fascinating study. So I'm glad I'm not the only geek out there who finds that interesting. Oh, and by the way, it's exactly the same with other colonial languages. French is a wonderful example. If you look at West Africa and La Francophonie, as they call it, you'll see the exact same thing with native populations adapting the language to their own particular linguistic patterns. You know, that is just a natural thing. It's just a way of them assimilating that tongue and being able to speak it. As you know, it's very difficult, for instance, for a Brit to speak some of the French words, especially when we are talking about words with the letter R. Rouler en voiture. There's a very, very heavy R that cannot be rolled by most English speakers. And of course, if we are looking at the other side, if we are looking at French people trying to speak English, there's the famous the sound that French people find very difficult to grasp and to understand. And that's always how you can tell one apart from the other. But it's exactly the same with other linguistic groups. Anyway.